This episode brought to you by HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com and use promo code ModernRogue80 to get $80 off and free shipping. And it's delicious. Growing up, I thought toxic waste was going to be a much bigger deal.
It was going to get you in the middle of the night.
Like I was just going to be going to the grocery store and all of a sudden, a pit of toxic sludge.
You watched Creepshow 2, and then you just thought of that sludge coming for you.
I watched Creepshow 2. I had the G.I. Joe action figures that were meant for fighting toxic waste.
Yes.
Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Waste was the good guy in that, right?
In Toxic Avenger?
I mean, it made the Toxic Avenger.
I don't know. Did you see the guy? Sure, he was a superhero, but he was also Sloth from Goonies.
I'm so thrilled because I think we're coming up on 5 years and we've never really talked about the concept of deep time. The historical epochs of like all of humanity has existed for about 300,000 years, and a lot has changed from the moment we gained sentience to the moment that we landed on the moon, right? Those are good bookends, right?
Yeah, that's good. After that, it was pretty much downhill, but...
So the question is, how do you send a message today that will be understood 300,000 more years from now?
Twitter.
Oh, no.
Speaking of
Talking
radioactive
about
toxic sludge.
So in this case, we're talking about the WIPP, the Waste Isolation something project? Pilot project, that's right. Officially, its budget began in 1990, ended in 2019. It's up for renewal right now, but here in America, there was talk about the Yucca Mountain project. They were gonna take a mountain out west of Nevada that nobody cared about and just dig a tunnel into it and put all their toxic waste and radioactive sludge in.
Tons and tons of stuff that would be radioactive for, what, 240,000 plus years?
Sure. So it didn't work out for Yucca Mountain, but the WIPP appears to still be going forward. It's in New Mexico specifically because there's an area of salt flats that are extraordinarily stable. Like in all of North America, it's the most shaky, earthquakey, stable.
Yeah, like 4,000 feet deep of salt or something like that?
Yeah. So the question is, we can drill down here, we can make a series of tunnels, we can store all of this stuff, but long after humanity has forgotten the English language, how do we make it clear that you shouldn't go down here? And the weird part is the bigger a deal you make, the more likely people are going to investigate. Think about those giant drawings in the middle of the desert, or Stonehenge, or any of those things.
Sure, like the Nazca lines in Peru or something like that.
So what messages do you want to convey, and how do you convey them?
Right, because language, of course, is a very fluid thing. So even if you go far enough back in our own human language, even English to English.
Dude, I can't read Beowulf.
Right.
Beowulf makes no sense. The Canterbury Tales, I mean, that was what, 400 or 500 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm like, bleh.
I talked to some of the youths, or I watched the youths playing Fortnite, and I have no idea what they're saying. I'm still like, all your base belong to us, and they're like, whatever, like, Grandpa. There are still languages that scores of languages and inscriptions and so forth that humanity has yet to decipher, from the Olmecs to the Picts to the Proto-Elamites. All over the world, there's languages that we found.
Including made-up languages. What was the book that was entirely a fraud?
The Voynich manuscript.
Right?
Yeah.
So they figured out that basically somebody made up a bunch of symbols that meant syllables and basically had a retinue of them that he just randomly put in this, and he was like, here's a crazy book from an ancient land, and somebody was like, here's $1 million of the equivalent dollars.
Yeah, and how do future civilizations take all of the trash that we've produced and determine what's important and what's not? Because they might actually find, episodes of Good Burger and think, okay, well, these people, this is what they're like.
Well,
this is their society.
Now we're into Galaxy Quest, where it's like, these are historical documentations.
Or Canticle for Leibowitz.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the ideas suggested for the WIPP, was to create what they called an atomic priesthood. The idea that they would create generations of people who had one purpose. They were born, they learned the story of why this land is dangerous, and they would die. They would serve the local community, but they had one job, is no, you must not go there.
Yeah, in 1981, the linguist Thomas Thomas Seebach had that idea, and as soon as I read Atomic Priesthood, it's like, I want to be an atomic priest. I don't care what the job is, I just want to be able to put that on my resume.
Now,
Jason Murphy, atomic priest.
One of the other ideas was cover everything in concrete thorns, so it was physically difficult to get there, but of course that would erode over time and certainly not last 300,000
Or
years.
even massive concrete thorns, which if they do that, that's just gonna have like every metal video is gonna be like, I got a camera, let's go shoot a video out here.
Yeah, right? There was also talk about like creating geographically giant lightning bolts emanating from this, which again, only makes it sound more interesting, only makes me want to go to there even more.
Yeah, that's just gonna be like kids in the future are gonna say, dude, I got this really cool place to go skate. And it's gonna be like the most radioactive skate park ever.
There was also talk about actually creating a faux disaster. The idea was put a bunch of asphalt out there and then break it all up and make it look as though a gigantic bomb had landed there at some point in the past, and they're like, hopefully they'll get the point.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating to me is that they have this cross-section of experts from every discipline who have come together to contribute ideas to how to build a message that the future will understand. And they've got musicians and artists and anthropologists and engineers and scientists and everything, all trying to come up with the perfect distilled message that tells people, hey, don't go here, you're gonna die.
This is not even really a new problem, because in Japan there would be historically big earthquakes and tsunamis that would come in. So they created a bunch of giant stone markers that indicated kind of the high water line of where a tsunami would come in. Everybody knew what they were for. It was not like Stonehenge. It wasn't like everybody forgot, but they're all like, yeah, but those are just rocks from old people. I'm gonna build my building a little bit closer to the beach. And they regretted it.
One of my favorite, most interesting, weirdest, and maybe cruel ones, I don't know, genetically engineering cats called ray cats that would change colors whenever they went near radiation. So it's basically a feline version of the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, a feline Geiger counter.
Yeah.
100% on board with that.
I would be tempted just to get one of those cats. I was like, oh man, I really want to see him change colors though.
Except you're chasing it around with a microwave. Going like, the door's open, you're like, come here, kitty kitty. So let's talk about where they ended up with. There are 4 levels to it. Rudimentary information. So they needed to communicate something man-made is here. I don't know, whatever the totems are around it has to communicate humans made this. Number 2, something was made by man and it's bad, dangerous. To you and me, a skull and crossbones is obviously like, well, that's the easiest way to communicate death. I mean, it means poison, right? But it didn't always mean that. Originally, it indicated Christ's triumph over death. And so it was a celebratory thing. And it wasn't
Jesus
until
was a pirate.
Well, it wasn't until
I'll
seafarers
be back from the dead, matey.
started to put in their logbooks next to names. They would put the skull and crossbones to say, "Hey, he's in heaven now. By the way, good job, Christ, on defeating death." So it was a good thing at the time, and it's only over the last couple of hundred years that it's become a bad thing. So, I mean, certainly 300,000 years from now, it won't mean nothing.
Yeah, and currently, of all of the people living, they've determined that only like 6% of the people recognize the symbol for radiation.
I guess in that case, we're worried about it becoming a totem. You know, look at all the signs for this. This obviously is a wholly important place. And so let's go there, which is the opposite of what you want.
You got to think, even like a little over, what was it, 100 years ago or something like that, when they were opening King Tut's tomb, they thought that there was going to be a curse released. So if you think, 500 years in the future, people are saying, don't go in here, it's bad, it's bad. Those people in the future might say, oh, those 21st century superstitious idiots, it's fine.
Right.
This is probably just another football stadium or something.
So again, 4 levels. Something was made by man, it's bad, don't go in there. Number 3 tells the who, what, why, where, what. And then level 4 is highly detailed written records, tables, figures, graphs, maps, diagrams of the whole thing. The idea is the message just gets more emphatic and precise as you approach the middle.
Right. It's really interesting because an effort to communicate with people that far in the future really is no different from the Golden Record or the Arecibo message.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Wait. That sounds like a totally different episode. I'm on board, because essentially you're almost talking to aliens. You're talking to somebody who does not share a common set of values, a common culture, a common language, but they are at least human, and so some things should be kind of inherently, I guess what, make giant venomous snake eyes so that like, or put the Cobra logo on there?
Oh,
or...
yeah, absolutely. Everyone's going to understand that because in the future, they're all going to be really well-versed with modern
1980s cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. Or modern rogue lore. And be like, oh, this is TMZ Cobra. We got to stay away. I would make something that just for future generations, this generates like this massive fart smell and plays Baby Shark over and over at like deafening levels for all eternity. Nobody's gonna go there.
Baby
Even
Shark
aliens.
becomes like the most boring church hymn of all history. Everyone, like kids everywhere, are standing up and going, "Baby Shark, doo 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 doo, Baby Shark, doo 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 doo." This is my magician voice speaking.
You want to make it totally uninteresting.
I don't know that you get to have a warning and make it uninteresting at the same time. I think the louder the warning, the more interesting it gets.
Sure.
And I think that's the fundamental unsolvable problem that they're going through right now. We have technology now, and we'll have technology, let's say conservatively, for 10,000 more years before, something terrible happens. Then
You're so optimistic.
let's use technology now to, number one, make it as uninteresting as possible. Whatever message they intend to communicate, bury it along with the waste. So when somebody finds it, they find out an explanation of why everybody's dying when they get near this. But in the meantime, make it uninteresting and then just use technology as long as our civilization lasts to, if anybody crosses a border, say, nope, get out of here.
Well, it seems to me that this is something that would have to be constantly updated, right? Where like every 100 years we go back and we say, okay, you know what? This language is outdated and we've got these, maybe the atomic priests.
I mean, that's the idea of the atomic priesthood, but of course that's something that has to go on, and of course you're intentionally creating something that will eventually get mythologized and become something, false.
If I just get some dope ass robes and I'm like the atomic pope or something like that.
I mean, you can declare yourself right now.
I am the atomic pope. You all heard it.
Coming to HBO this February, the Atomic Pope.
I need a Vatican in the middle of the New Mexico desert and a secret hit squad.
Everybody in the comments, if you have a better idea than the Atomic Pope, hit us up in the comments and we'll
don't.
respond to all you guys. Boy, that was a good one. Well, what a crazy idea.
I need some robes, some dope ass robes.
You have robes. You have dope ass robes.
My Boba Fett bathrobe? That one?
Yes.
Might as well.
That'll be fine.
Anybody that knows me knows that I am pretty incapable of cooking. I didn't even know how to brown meat until I was a man. I was an adult man until I figured out how to brown meat. Still a little sketchy on the details, but whatever. HelloFresh makes it so simple that you can prepare a meal in as little as 20 minutes. And these are delicious 5-star meals. This is something that makes me feel capable, like I know what I'm doing. I rarely get that feeling, but HelloFresh gives me that. I get delicious food delivered to my doorstep, and it's a 5-star meal. They've got low-cal, vegetarian, family-friendly stuff, and it is so, so tasty. And it saves time. You don't have to go to the grocery store because going to the grocery store is a harrowing experience. It is, you gotta put on your Brotherhood of Steel armor and get your machete, and that takes, on average, 41 minutes. No, I wait for HelloFresh to come to me, and I cook a meal that is a 5-star meal, and I feel like I'm capable, and I tell people I did it all by myself. That's our little secret, HelloFresh. That's fine. It's also very flexible. You can skip a meal when you need, add extra proteins, or even some of their delicious garlic bread. Use my code ModernRogue80 to get a total of $80 off, including free shipping on your first box with purchase. Go to HelloFresh.com to redeem and get more details. That's why they call it browning, because it gets brown. I got it.
Offer and link in the description below.
All right, guys, quick reminder that all of this is brought to you by our proud patrons over at patreon.com/modernrogue. You get special gifts, you get bonus stuff, you get behind the scenes awesomeness, you get discounts, but most importantly, you keep us alive. And thank you to all of our fabulous patrons. Why don't you join the club? Thanks.